One of the main things I think of is the role that climate and coffee have with each other, and just coffee being a harvested crop and the impact that just overall climate change is having. The supply of coffee is continuously at risk year over year. It's an important story that needs to be better told. We have a project that we are embarking on that we're really excited about, that we figured that we should bring you guys into the know earlier than later. I know we met a few years ago now, and as Rod and I have been talking about just our overall journey for the business and being a social enterprise, one of the areas that we're not the strongest on is climate. And so seeing where you are now with SGS, wanted to reach out and just pick your brain a bit in the sense of, where is the right place for us to start on this?
I mean, I'll be honest, I think highly of you guys already. The environment score there's opportunity there around climate.
Being able to learn from you all's experience and, background with other businesses just bodes really well for us.
So Pernell and Rod are gonna give us some info about a project that we are working on.
Climate is super, critical in the industry that we're in. That Mother Earth, is intended to appropriately direct, implications to our business, to the industry. And so while we are doing this to get better for ourselves, we also are doing this to be an example for the coffee industry. We have, partnered with SGS in the pursuit of improving, how we impact the climate and overall how we can improve our operation from doing such.
A goal that we have is to having the highest B Corp score of all the coffee companies that bear that certification. So improving on the environmental side will definitely help us do that. So when we built this business, we took into consideration our own shopping habits and how intentional we were with the brands that we brought into our households. And oftentimes those brands represented more than just the product that were in the packaging. It's about they from where did they invest, from where do they source. The premier stamp of approval in our estimation was the B Corp certification.
Being a B Corp and essentially a social enterprise, you don't want to have a weak link, right? And we want to be able to, operate under our fullest potential. And by way of that, when we look at our environmental and having, people in our network, such as Adam with SGS, gives us the opportunity not only to learn, but also realize the value alignment that allows us to do while we learn.
And you're gonna teach me more about the coffee industry than I definitely know. Consumers hearing that coffee is at risk. Climate seems like a really distant thing for people. It's like, oh, I don't understand the science. But if they're like, oh, I might not get coffee in the morning.
Right.
It's important for us to not have started as an environmentally focused company, but to ensure that environment is prioritized as we execute our business, because what are we doing if we're not prioritizing that?
So what do we need to do, or can you outline for us the next steps on us to engage in this project?
Yes, I'll put a whole schedule together of how we measure carbon footprint,
how we get your team trained on carbon counting, how you can get your data verified, and how you can reduce your emissions.
Sound good?
Yeah.
So
All right.
beautiful.
Love to work with you guys. So
Cheers, man.
good to meet you.
Awesome.
Thanks for reaching back out.
Yeah. Talking about climate, and I'm over here brewing kick-ups. Are we gonna talk the talk around change is needed, or do we walk the walk? How does walking the walk look like when we don't directly control it?
Why stop there and not pursue having the farms and be fully integrated from the harvesting to the distribution?
Lanes of production versus farming that are two fundamental industry differences.
All right. This is what we've been waiting for, carbon footprint, and we got really good numbers. So organizational boundary is just the roastery, the one location, and full supply chain, upstream, downstream. Yep. So that's what you're gonna see. And my first question is, there's 30 lines of emission data. And Megan, you could share, like, how was that collecting it?
It was good. It definitely took a minute, and I think we are in a good spot now where we kind of like know where all the information is. I feel really good about the data.
But we do have every country broken out so that you have coffee with different emission factors from the different locations. We assume no recycled content until we know the exact amount so that you're gonna only improve. But it's good to start conservatively with those estimates. We've gotten to dig into them. We even did a data verification, and this is what you'll get. I'll let you soak it in a little bit, but your total emissions, 4,000 total tons, 4,039. You also came out very low on the emissions per pound, but 98% is upstream and downstream. It's not your four walls. You don't own it, and that's a large percentage.
Right. So we can't control 98% of the emissions footprint.
That's one way of saying it for now.
Kind of just
It's got to be really good influencers.
Yeah.
I would say you don't have direct control, but there's indirect, there's collaborations, there's purchasing decisions, there's conversations that can be started with partners. We've got some other things to work on, 3 things to focus on. 77% of that 98% is packaged coffee. That's your bag and box, the bibs. Fractional packs, frac packs, K-cups that go in the pods, and the aluminum cans for the cold brew.
Yeah.
Raw beans themselves are still 11% of that 98%. So you can look at, which we've already started, country of origin, cultivation method, definitely things that impact the emissions. And the third on the list, which is still important, is how you transport those packages and those coffee beans. That's hauling. So how do you look at where it gets delivered to the customer? Coffee bean sourcing is going to be number 1 for an impact. Then it's packaging materials, because you're kind of pulling the coffee that's in the package up. And then haulers is third, still very relevant.
It reminds me of the fair trade trip that we were supposed to go on, got canceled. And it would be amazing if we got a chance to go to Origin and just really immerse ourselves as a company in all things harvesting and all things green coffee, given, again, how much this impacts our objectives right now.
And where was that trip going to be?
It was going to be to Peru.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
In the spirit of, understanding how we influence the supply chain, since we can't directly, impact it, then I think it is good to get closer to it. Well, it really becomes a matter of scheduling this time and who's going to be available to do that.
Well, come make room. Schedules are flexible. I'm here in Peru, excited, super excited.